ABC2 tonight. You know, it's hard for people, young people, to believe, but there was a time not that long ago that blacks in the South were not allowed in the front of the bus. Blacks and whites could not sit side by side. But all that changed with a movement that happened 50 years ago with the Freedom Riders. And ABC2 News' Cherie Johnson sat down with one of the Freedom Riders who relives the moment that brought about change.
Come up and lay 'em down.
The time was 1961. It was a time of social change, a time for the civil rights movement. Throughout the South, groups of blacks and whites boarded buses to protest segregated interstate travel. It was a step that sparked a national movement, the Freedom Rides. Norma Collins was a part of that movement.
I had been always a person who liked to work in the background. I'd been on picket lines and all before, but then I decided I want to do this. And so I asked if I could be a part of that Freedom Ride.
Collins always wanted to be a part of something. Growing up, she never had a sense of belonging. In 1961, this Baltimore native was living in Atlanta working for a student nonviolent coordinating committee when she heard about the Freedom Rides.
I never had a lot of confidence in myself growing up. I grew up in foster care. There was not that much in terms of nurturing, but I always knew that there were certain things I wanted to do. And when I started working with the student movement, I felt this is something I want to do.
Collins and other Freedom Riders challenged Jim Crow's travel rules, divided buses, separate waiting areas, and race-based restrooms. Collins and 8 others boarded a train in Atlanta, Georgia, and headed to Albany, sitting in the whites-only section.
We were together as a group. We decided not to separate, and we started singing freedom songs. A lot of it was with the singing the freedom songs while we were on the ride. Kind of ease the tension, because of course you're tense and you're afraid. You really don't know what you're riding, what you're going into.
Once they arrived in Albany, they were greeted by hundreds of supporters and local police.
We walked into the white waiting room, and we were there for maybe 2 minutes, and we walked outside. And when we walked outside, there was a group of about 200 or 300 people and police. As we walked outside, there really wasn't a sidewalk at that time, so we had to walk in the street. And the police officers began pulling us off, saying, "You're under arrest."
Collins and 7 other Freedom Riders spent 15 days in jail. She was fortunate not to experience any violence during the movement, but other Freedom Riders weren't so lucky. In Anniston, Alabama, a bus with Freedom Riders was set on fire. People nearly burned alive. In Birmingham, Alabama, another bus carrying Freedom Riders was met with pipes and bats. Several people were severely beaten. But the rides didn't stop. More than 400 others would join in the movement on a 7-month campaign. The rides pressured the Kennedy administration to finally enforce federal law desegregating interstate buses and public accommodations.
I personally don't see myself as a hero. It was my own personal decision. It was my own personal feeling that I needed to do this. So I don't see myself as a hero. It was just my way of expressing or doing what I felt needed to be done. I think the heroes are those who were beaten, who were really mistreated in jail.
Norma Collins is 70 years old and lives in Baltimore County. She says this country has made tremendous strides in terms of education, transportation, and affirmative action. She's proud of the stand she took 50 years ago in a movement that changed lives and a nation.
I've been changed so many times. I've been a Negro, I've been colored, I've been black, now I'm African American. So I guess I've been blessed to come through the changes that we've gone through.
Cherie Johnson, ABC2 News.
With that, a little bit of a history lesson for all of us. Now in their 70s, many of the Freedom Riders recently were reunited in Chicago. And Norma Collins and other Freedom Riders were guests on the Oprah Winfrey Show. And tonight at 9 o'clock on PBS, they're going to air a special on the Freedom Riders.